We thank you for joining us. Brian Lamar, SuperTalk Opinion Writer, joins us now. Hey, Brian.
Hey, sir. How's it going? Thanks for having me on the air.
You bet. So I read your piece that's published at SuperTalk Mississippi Media entitled "A Mississippian in Japan: Trading Hurricanes for Typhoons." Tell us about that experience.
Well, the thing is, before I moved out here to Japan, I lived on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for quite some time and experienced a few nice wallops of hurricanes. And when I got out here to Okinawa, I found out they have typhoons. And I always thought, growing up, I always thought that they spun the other way or something like that. But they're actually the same exact thing. They just call it something different over here on the Pacific side.
Okay, so they do spin in the same direction then.
Yeah, it's not until you get south of the equator, then they spin the opposite direction. It's the whole Coriolis effect, and I don't want to get into an eighth grade science lesson here, but it's funny because we're above the equator over here in Japan, and they get the typhoons now. They're pretty big. They get a lot of running room across the Pacific, and they pick up a lot of speed. And they pack a punch.
Yeah. So you were at Presidio in Monterey. It's beautiful. I've played golf out there before.
Oh yeah, so there's lots of good golf out there, and I got a chance. I was a sergeant, first class, out at the Presidio Monterey when I was still active duty Army, and I had a chance to go out to Pebble Beach and volunteer out there for their Callaway Classic. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is awesome. All right, so how did you end up in Japan?
So, I was working at the CB base out there in Gulfport. I was the installation public affairs officer, and my boys were getting old enough that they were starting to really settle in and put down roots, and getting to the point where my older son was starting to talk to girls, and I thought, oh, he's going to get a girlfriend any day now, and he's never going to want to leave. So I figured this is a good time to get out of town and go take my kids and show them what the rest of the world lives like before we come back.
Interesting. So what does it look like? How would you contrast life in Japan versus, say, life in Mississippi?
So the first thing that you'll notice if you get over to Japan, and let's just say Tokyo for one. Tokyo is the largest metropolitan area in the world. They got roughly about 40 million people living in the city. And it sounds terrible. It sounds awful, actually. You just think about the mass amount of folks that are crammed into one town. But what you won't find is a lick of garbage anywhere. I mean, it's clean as can be. If you ride on the trains, you ride on the buses, there's no loudmouth or somebody on their phone on speakerphone. You've seen them before. It's annoying, but you won't see that kind of stuff, and it's almost as to a person, all 40 million of them, to a person, they do not tolerate what I'm calling antisocial behavior, where it just when you don't act right and be respectful of others, and there's something to that, and it's not like they get up and get in your face about it or anything. Is me and my wife, we like to joke about it. They stare at us in Japanese if we're too loud on the train or something like that. They got this special stare that they'll give you, and it makes you feel like you're about 2 inches tall. So you just behave, and that means that all 40 million people in this city, they go around, they don't litter, they don't fight and holler and all that stuff like that. It's a very peaceful and safe society, and I gotta give it to them. They're doing something right.
Yeah, 40 million people. So that's essentially the population of California crammed into a city.
Yeah,
That's the entire population of California. Wow.
And it's not just in the city of Tokyo. Anywhere you go, you don't find a bunch of panhandlers begging for change. You don't find a bunch of garbage being thrown around. You don't see people acting like fools in the grocery store and all that stuff like that. It's just I don't know. They're doing something right, and it starts with that whole society thing. They'll shun you. They'll shun you hard if you don't act right.
Interesting. So how did you get interested in writing? I know you've done that quite a bit. You've published quite a bit of op-eds, opinion pieces. How did you get interested in that?
You know, the early age of I guess I was 8 years old, second grade. I wrote a veteran profile piece on my great grandfather who was in World War II. Actually, he was out here in Japan in World War II. So now I've come full circle on this. But he uh, he was a Marine in World War II, and he did the interview with me, and I wrote the story for the grade for Veterans Day for second grade, and it got turned in. And then my teacher was so impressed with it, she asked me to go back to the VFW where my great grandfather was and do some more. And I did about six of them, and they all ran in the Times Daily, which was up the
Hmm.
paper at the time in North Alabama, where I was growing up, and it sparked that interest in me. I was able to tell those stories, and people were interested. And people learned something from it, and a little bit of entertainment too at the same time. And that just kind of sparked the interest, and it's just kind of grown from there. So I've been a journalist now for about 25 years.
Wow. So any particular subject matter that you prefer to write about?
So there's a lot of different types of writing out there, but my favorite, I guess, uh, I can't even say it's just my favorite. It's not also what I'm best at. It just seems what I naturally have gravitated toward over my career is writing that personality feature, and I love telling veterans stories. There are so many different stories out there. I mean, some good, some bad, but there's so many uh, heroes out there. There's so many people that have diverse lifestyles with great ethic, and they're the type of people. By and large, you got your outliers in every situation, but by and large, you got a group of veterans, and you're going to have people that are salt of the earth type of folks, family people who all they want to do is just make their surroundings better. They want to work hard for their community, they want to work hard for their family, and they serve their country. And I love telling those stories.
Hmm. Interesting. So, of course, we're losing our World War II veterans on a daily basis. They're
Yeah,
aging out and perishing, and that's kind of sad because there's just so much in their heads that's so fascinating. And I think good
yeah,
folks like you have done a great job of capturing those thoughts and those experiences before they leave us, which is good to keep those stories alive forever. They should be. These are heroes, no
yeah,
doubt.
yeah,
Have you talked to any
yeah, absolutely.
Vietnam era veterans, Brian?
I do. I talked to Vietnam era veterans. And, talking about the World War II veterans, real quick, back in 2010, when I was at the Presidio of Monterey, I found out about the Library of Congress had a Veterans Oral History Project. And the
Hmm.
congressman in the area at the time. He asked me if I'd be interested in capturing some of these oral histories, and they're pretty intensive projects. And so I only got about a dozen of them done in a course of about a year and a half. But we got those recorded, those World War II histories recorded, and they'll always be in the Library of Congress in written form and in audio form. I don't know if anybody will ever come across them or if they'll ever get dug up or anything, but that was nice. And so one of my goals when I do get back to Mississippi a big plan of mine is to start capturing veterans' histories again uh, on a like a one-on-one personality feature type scale, and I'd like to put together I don't know what some sort of anthology of veterans in Mississippi, and I'm going to be focusing heavily on the Korean War veterans that are still around and the Vietnam veterans, and I want to gather their stories so their families can pass those anthologies down over the generations, so we can capture all of these Mississippi heroes that served.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. So, what else is on the boards for you? Any particular projects you're thinking about? You think about writing a book, perhaps?
You know, as I'm writing these articles for Super Talk, and the purpose of these articles that I keep writing for Super Talk is to highlight the similarities and also the differences of our two cultures. And I've noticed that I've been writing them, and I didn't realize until I talked to J.T. Miller about it the other day, and he said he told me that I wouldn't believe how popular they had been, and I was flabbergasted to know that people were reading them, and I'm glad, I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
But I decided that I'll probably at some point take all of these and somehow try to organize them and put them together in a book.
Awesome. Brian, appreciate it. Enjoy reading your article and look forward to reading some more and appreciate your contributions to Super Talk. Thanks a lot, Brian.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.